The fragile peace in the Kashmir Valley was shattered on April 22, 2025. A brutal terror attack occurred in Pahalgam. Pakistan-backed terrorists specifically targeted Hindu men. This act of violence was not an isolated incident. It represented a continued pattern of cross-border aggression. The attack aimed to incite communal tensions. It also sought to undermine stability in the region. The Indian populace reacted with outrage and demanded firm action. The government understood the gravity of the situation. This attack became the immediate trigger for a significant shift in India's response to terrorism. The Indian government viewed the Pahalgam attack with utmost seriousness. It was seen as a direct challenge to India's sovereignty and security. For years, India had practiced strategic restraint. This policy was often tested by repeated provocations. However, the Pahalgam incident marked a tipping point. The nature of the attack, targeting civilians based on their religion, crossed a critical red line. It became clear that previous approaches were insufficient to deter state-sponsored terrorism emanating from across the border. A new, more robust strategy was deemed necessary to protect national interests and ensure the safety of Indian citizens. Intense deliberations took place within the highest echelons of the Indian government. Political leaders, military commanders, and intelligence chiefs convened. They assessed the situation and weighed various response options. A consensus emerged that a strong, punitive action was required. This decision marked a departure from past doctrines. Operation Sindoor was conceptualized as this decisive response. The name itself, Sindoor, holds deep cultural significance in India, symbolizing auspiciousness and commitment, hinting at the operation's solemn purpose. The decision to act was unanimous, reflecting a united national will. Operation Sindoor was meticulously planned. It was not merely a retaliatory strike. It aimed to reshape the strategic environment in South Asia. The operation intended to send an unequivocal message to Pakistan. This message was that India would no longer tolerate the use of terrorism as an instrument of state policy. The objectives were clear: neutralize terrorist infrastructure and degrade Pakistan's capacity to support such activities. India was prepared to undertake proactive measures, even if they carried risks of escalation. The nation braced itself for a new chapter in its security posture. India launched the first phase of Operation Sindoor on May 7, 2025. This was a carefully calibrated initial response. The primary targets were known terrorist training camps and launch pads. Specifically, 9 sites belonging to Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed were selected. These organizations have a long history of orchestrating attacks against India. The selection of these targets demonstrated India's precise intelligence and its intent to strike at the root of the terror menace. This phase aimed to deliver a swift and impactful blow to these groups, disrupting their operations and leadership. The initial strikes utilized a combination of advanced weaponry and joint service coordination. Loitering munitions were deployed by the Indian Army, Air Force, and Navy. This highlighted India's growing capability in network-centric warfare. The use of such munitions allowed for precision targeting. It also helped in minimizing collateral damage, a key consideration for India in maintaining the moral high ground. The coordinated action of the 3 services underscored the integrated approach adopted for Operation Sindoor. This synergy was crucial for the success of these complex initial engagements against dispersed targets. Among the 9 sites, particular focus was given to high-value terrorist infrastructure. Locations like Muridke, the known headquarters of Liti, and Bahawalpur, a major hub for GEM, were struck. These strikes employed sophisticated standoff weapons. Scalp cruise missiles, launched from aircraft, and BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles were used. These weapons are known for their exceptional range and accuracy. Targeting these nerve centers was intended to cripple the command and control capabilities of the terrorist organizations. It sent a clear signal that no sanctuary would remain safe. The results of the May 7th strikes were significant. Reports indicated that over 100 terrorists were neutralized. This included several key operatives and trainers. Importantly, Indian military sources emphasized that these strikes were conducted with a high degree of precision. This resulted in minimal collateral damage to civilian life and property in the vicinity of the targets. This initial phase served as a powerful demonstration of India's capabilities and its resolve. It also set the stage for further action, should Pakistan fail to take concrete steps to dismantle the terror apparatus operating from its soil. Following the initial strikes on May 7th, the situation remained tense. Pakistan's response, or lack thereof in terms of dismantling terror networks, prompted India to escalate its actions. The Indian leadership determined that a more forceful message was necessary to alter Pakistan's strategic calculus. Thus, the main phase of Operation Sindoor was launched on May 10, 2025. This phase marked a significant shift. It expanded the target set beyond terrorist camps to include critical Pakistani military installations. This escalation was a clear indication of India's new security doctrine in practice. The strategic thinking behind the May 10th offensive was to directly engage and degrade Pakistan's conventional military capabilities. This was a bold move, moving beyond counter-terrorism operations to counter-state actions. The objective was to impose a direct cost on the Pakistani military establishment for its continued support of terrorist proxies. By targeting military assets, India aimed to demonstrate its capacity and willingness to escalate horizontally and vertically. This proactive shaping of the strategic environment was intended to deter future misadventures by Pakistan. The message was clear: state sponsorship of terror would be met with direct military consequences. The Indian Air Force spearheaded these deep strikes. Advanced fighter aircraft, including the Rafale and Su-30 MKI, were employed. These platforms delivered a variety of precision-guided munitions. Scalp and BrahMos missiles were again utilized for their ability to hit targets deep inside enemy territory with high accuracy. The IAF's pilots executed these complex missions with skill and professionalism. The ability to penetrate heavily defended airspace and strike key targets showcased a significant enhancement in India's offensive air power capabilities. The coordination between airborne assets, ground control, and intelligence was paramount. The overarching goal of this main offensive phase was to inflict substantial damage on Pakistan's ability to wage war. This included its command and control systems, air defense networks, and air assets. The strikes were not random. They were part of a carefully orchestrated campaign. The aim was to create a deterrent effect by demonstrating the vulnerability of Pakistan's strategic assets. This phase of Operation Sindoor was designed to be a short, intense, and decisive blow, compelling Pakistan to reconsider its policies and seek de-escalation from a position of disadvantage. The May 10th strikes resulted in the confirmed destruction of several high-value Pakistani military assets. Among the most significant was a Pakistani Saab 2000 airborne early warning and control system aircraft. This aircraft was reportedly destroyed while flying approximately 315 kilometers inside Pakistani airspace. The loss of an AWACS platform is a major blow to any air force. These systems provide crucial airborne surveillance, command, and control capabilities. Neutralizing such an asset severely hampers the enemy's ability to monitor airspace and direct its own aerial operations effectively. Beyond the AWACS, other Pakistani air assets were also successfully targeted and destroyed. These included one C-130J medium-lift transport aircraft, vital for troop and material movement. One JF-17 Thunder fighter jet, a mainstay of the Pakistan Air Force, was also eliminated. Furthermore, two F-16 fighter jets were reported destroyed, one during an aerial engagement and another on the ground at an airbase. The destruction of these combat and transport aircraft represented a tangible reduction in Pakistan's operational air power. Each loss directly impacted their force projection and defensive capabilities. India's offensive also focused on degrading Pakistan's air defense infrastructure. A Chinese-supplied Li-80 LOMADS located near Lahore was neutralized. This was reportedly achieved using a Harpy loitering munition, designed specifically for SEAD missions. Additionally, an HQ-9 long-range surface-to-air missile system, stationed in Malir, Karachi, was also struck and rendered inoperable. Taking out these advanced air defense systems was critical for enabling Indian aircraft to operate with greater freedom and safety within Pakistani airspace. The cumulative effect of these targeted destructions was substantial. The Pakistan Air Force's Northern Air Command and Control Network, located at Nur Khan Air Base in Chaklala, was reportedly disabled. Subsequent precision airstrikes targeted at least 12 key Pakistani air bases. These included major installations like Sargodha, Skardu, and Jacobabad. This systematic campaign aimed to cripple Pakistan's air defense and command infrastructure, severely limiting their ability to mount an effective response or coordinate their remaining air assets. The impact was both physical and psychological. Section 5. Pakistan's retaliation, Operation Banyan al-Marsus, and its failure. In response to India's offensive actions, Pakistan launched its own counter-operation. This was codenamed Operation Banyan al-Marsus. It was initiated around 1 o'clock in the morning on May 10, 2025. The primary objective of this Pakistani operation was to target Indian air bases and other military installations. This was an anticipated move, as Pakistan would naturally attempt to retaliate against Indian incursions. The launch of their operation signified a direct military confrontation, escalating the conflict beyond the initial strikes on terrorist camps. Pakistan sought to demonstrate its own offensive capabilities and resolve. However, Operation Banyan al-Marsus was largely thwarted by a combination of factors. India's ongoing offensive strikes likely disrupted Pakistan's preparations and command structures. Furthermore, India's robust and multi-layered air defense network proved highly effective. The Pakistani counteroffensive reportedly ended within approximately 8 hours of its commencement. This short duration indicated its lack of success in achieving its objectives. The Indian military was prepared for such a retaliatory action and had taken measures to mitigate its impact. The preemptive nature of some Indian actions may have also played a role. Specific elements of Pakistan's attempted retaliation, such as drone and missile strikes, were intercepted. Indian air defense systems, working in an integrated manner, successfully neutralized these incoming threats. This demonstrated the strength of India's defensive shield. The ability to detect, track, and engage multiple threats simultaneously was crucial in blunting the Pakistani counterattack. The failure of these strikes to penetrate Indian defenses and cause significant damage was a major setback for Pakistan's military. It highlighted a gap in their offensive capabilities when faced with a prepared adversary. The swift and effective neutralization of Operation Banyan al-Marsus had significant implications. It exposed vulnerabilities in Pakistan's offensive planning and execution. It also underscored the enhanced capabilities of the Indian armed forces, both offensively and defensively. The inability of Pakistan to inflict comparable damage on Indian assets likely contributed to their decision to seek a ceasefire later that day. The psychological impact of a failed counteroffensive on Pakistani military morale and strategic calculations would also have been considerable, further shifting the operational dynamics in India's favor. Section 6. India's air defense dominance, the S-400 triumph in action. A critical component of India's defense during Operation Sindoor was the S-400 Triumph long-range air defense missile system. This operation marked the combat debut of the S-400 in Indian service. Its performance was closely monitored, both domestically and internationally, given the system's reputation. India's decision to acquire the S-400 from Russia had been a significant strategic move. This conflict provided the first real-world test of its capabilities within the Indian operational doctrine. The system was deployed to protect key assets and provide area denial against Pakistani air intrusions. The S-400 system was reportedly activated multiple times during the hostilities. Official sources indicated at least 11 activations throughout the course of Operation Sindoor. These activations were in response to detected Pakistani aerial threats. One of the most notable successes attributed to the S-400 was the confirmed engagement and destruction of the Pakistani Saab-2000 AWACS aircraft. This kill, deep inside Pakistani airspace, showcased the extended range and precision of the S-400. It demonstrated its ability to neutralize high-value strategic assets, significantly degrading enemy air operations. It is important to note that the S-400 Triumph did not operate in isolation. It was integrated into a comprehensive and layered Indian air defense network. This network included indigenous systems such as the Akash surface-to-air missile. The command and control for this integrated network were facilitated by systems like the Akash Tier Command and Control System. This networking of various sensor and shooter platforms created a robust air defense matrix. It allowed for coordinated engagement of threats at different altitudes and ranges, enhancing overall survivability and effectiveness. The successful performance of the S-400 as part of this larger network had profound strategic implications. It significantly bolstered India's air defense capabilities, creating a formidable deterrent against aerial aggression. It also validated India's investment in advanced air defense technology and its ability to integrate sophisticated foreign systems with its domestically developed platforms. The combat effectiveness demonstrated by the S-400 during Operation Sindoor would undoubtedly influence regional military balances and potentially future defense procurement decisions by other nations observing the conflict. Section 7. The path to de-escalation, ceasefire, and India's diplomatic measures. As the intensity of Operation Sindoor peaked on May 10, 2025, with significant losses inflicted on Pakistani military assets, Pakistan began seeking avenues for de-escalation. By approximately 9:30 a.m. on that day, reports emerged that Pakistan had reached out to the United States. They were requesting American assistance in facilitating a ceasefire with India. This diplomatic outreach indicated the severe pressure Pakistan was under due to India's sustained and effective military operations. The involvement of a major global power like the US highlighted the international concern over the escalating situation. A ceasefire was subsequently agreed upon later on May 10, 2025. This agreement brought a halt to the major combat operations between the two nations. While the ceasefire has generally been holding, there have been reports of minor violations. Such occurrences are not uncommon in the aftermath of intense conflict along the volatile Indo-Pak border. The ceasefire, therefore, remains fragile. It requires continuous vigilance and a commitment from both sides to prevent a resumption of large-scale hostilities. The immediate priority was to stabilize the situation on the ground. In conjunction with its military actions, India also implemented significant diplomatic and economic measures to exert further pressure on Pakistan. Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced the suspension of the 1960 Indus Water Treaty. He made a strong statement that blood and water cannot flow together. This move threatened to impact water resources in Pakistan, a lower riparian state. Additionally, all trade across the Attari-Wagah border was halted. These measures were designed to impose economic costs on Pakistan for its continued support of terrorism, supplementing the military pressure. The naval dimension also played a role in the broader strategic signaling. Indian Navy warships were reportedly positioned approximately 260 miles off Pakistan's Makran coast. They were prepared to strike targets including the Karachi naval port, if deemed necessary. However, India refrained from escalating naval engagements after receiving a communication from Pakistan's Director General of Military Operations, DGMO. The Pakistani DGMO later requested a no-fire pact in the maritime domain. This demonstrated India's multi-domain pressure strategy and its calibrated restraint once de-escalation signals were received. Section 8. Technological Leap: India's Indigenous Prowess and New Age Warfare. Operation Sindoor served as a stark demonstration of India's rapidly evolving technological and strategic military capabilities. A key driver behind this advancement is the Atmanirbhar Bharat, or Self-Reliant India initiative, particularly emphasized in the defense sector. This focus has led to a significant increase in domestic defense production. In the fiscal year 2023 to 2024, India's indigenous defense manufacturing output reached an impressive rupees 1.27 lakh crore. Furthermore, approximately 65% of the country's defense requirements were met through domestic sources in the same period, reducing reliance on foreign imports. This indigenous capability is also reflected in India's growing stature as a defense exporter. In 2023 to 2024, India's defense exports reached rupees 21,083 crore, supplying military hardware and software to over 85 countries. Key export items include sophisticated systems like the Akash missile system, BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles, a joint venture, and the Pinaka multi-barrel rocket launcher system. The combat-proven effectiveness of these systems, as potentially showcased or validated during Operation Sindoor, could further boost their international demand. This contributes to India's economic growth and enhances its geopolitical influence. The operation also highlighted India's integration of New Age warfare technologies. Artificial intelligence, AI, played a role in surveillance and data analysis. Software-defined radios ensured secure and resilient communications. The military is also exploring advanced 5G and 6G capabilities for future conflicts. Unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, were critical for intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, ISR, and even strike missions, as seen with the Harpy drone. India's cyber warfare preparedness was also tested. Cyber attacks on Indian critical infrastructure during the conflict were reportedly neutralized, backed by its national cybersecurity strategy. The effective use of advanced standoff precision weapons was a hallmark of Operation Sindoor. Air-launched Scalp missiles from Rafale jets and both air and ground-launched versions of the BrahMos cruise missile allowed India to strike targets deep within Pakistan with high accuracy while minimizing risks to its own pilots and platforms. In a move towards greater transparency and information warfare, India also released video evidence of some of its successful strikes. This demonstrated confidence in its capabilities and aimed to counter any disinformation, showcasing a mature approach to modern conflict. Section 9. A new chapter: Indo-Pak relations after Operation Sindoor. Operation Sindoor unequivocally signaled a paradigm shift in India's security doctrine. The nation has moved decisively away from its long-standing policy of strategic restraint. It has now embraced a more proactive stance aimed at actively shaping the strategic environment. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's statement on May 12, 2025, was particularly telling. He clearly equated terrorists with their military backers, asserting India's right to respond militarily undeterred by nuclear saber-rattling. This new approach, sometimes referred to as an adaptive defense doctrine or a cost imposition strategy, fundamentally alters the established rules of engagement in the subcontinent. The immediate consequence of Operation Sindoor is a significant downturn in Indo-Pak relations, already fraught with historical animosity. The operation has established a new, much lower threshold for Indian military action against Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. Pakistan's leadership is now compelled to reassess the risks associated with its policy of employing terrorist proxies. The clear demonstration of India's capability and willingness to undertake deep punitive strikes against military targets has introduced a new level of deterrence. However, this heightened deterrence also comes with increased mistrust and a potentially more volatile security dynamic in the short term. This new assertive posture, while demonstrating strength, also presents challenges and risks for India. There is the commitment trap. India's credibility may now become overly reliant on military responses, potentially limiting its policy flexibility in future crises. The risk of rapid escalation in any future confrontation is now considerably higher. Furthermore, as terrorist groups adapt their tactics and improve their concealment measures, India will require even more precise and actionable intelligence. Managing heightened public expectations for decisive action and avoiding an over-reliance on military solutions while neglecting diplomatic avenues will also be crucial. The future of Indo-Pak relations in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor remains deeply uncertain. While the operation showcased India's enhanced military capabilities and its unwavering resolve to combat terrorism, a lasting peace in the region cannot be achieved through military means alone. The current ceasefire is a necessary but insufficient step. Long-term stability will require sustained diplomatic engagement, a verifiable and irreversible dismantlement of terrorist infrastructure by Pakistan, and a fundamental shift in Islamabad's strategic outlook. Operation Sindoor has drawn new red lines, but the path ahead is complex and fraught with potential instability.